It started on a Friday night, the kind of night that should have been ordinary. I had just gotten off a long shift, mentally drained and physically worn out. All I wanted was a quiet evening, maybe some takeout, and a late movie before crashing early. But when I pulled up to our house, I noticed something unusual. There were several unfamiliar cars parked out front, and the sound of laughter spilled through the slightly cracked window. My wife had apparently invited some of her old college friends over for a girls' night, a fact she conveniently forgot to mention to me. Not that I minded until I stepped inside. I didn't announce myself. That's important. I walked through the door quietly, thinking I'd just grab something from the kitchen and head back out to avoid the noise. That's when I heard it. That specific sound of inebriated cackling, raw, unchecked, and mean. I paused behind the wall between the entryway and the living room, my hand still on the keys in my pocket, and then came the sentence that cracked something open inside me. Through the half-open door, I heard her voice, my wife, the woman I had built a life with, loud and slurred from wine. He's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. The room exploded with laughter, that ugly, shrill kind of laughter. That's not just humor, but mockery. The kind that cuts deeper than silence. My stomach dropped. My heartbeat didn't race. It slowed, as if my entire body was trying to decide whether it was safe to keep existing in that moment. Another friend chimed in, between giggles. Wait, seriously? Years? And my wife, ever the life of the party, said, yes, years. I mean, come on. The guy thinks good communications means asking how my day was. More laughter. I felt my knees go weak. I leaned against the wall, gripping the corner like it was the only thing anchoring me to this planet. They weren't just gossiping. They weren't just venting. They were celebrating the lie, toasting it, relishing it, and they were doing it right in the home I paid for, the one I kept clean, the one I thought was a sanctuary. I didn't confront her. Not then. I didn't walk in, flip the table, scream, or make a scene. I didn't want to give her that satisfaction. You know why? Because that kind of arrogance only grows when it feels unchallenged. I walked out, quietly, just as I came in, got in my car, drove down the street, parked, sat in the dark, staring at the windshield as my hands trembled. And then I decided, I'm not gonna break. I'm gonna build a way out so quietly, she won't even hear the hammering. For the next few weeks, I played dumb. I acted like the same husband she always assumed I was: passive, predictable, boring. But behind the scenes, I was gathering every piece of evidence I could find. Texts, emails, private messages. I even placed a small recorder in her car, hidden under the seat. And what I found made her drunken confession look like a love letter. Hotel bookings under her name. Explicit conversations with co-workers. One-night flings during business trips. And worst of all, her mocking me to them, calling me a paycheck with shoes. I got a lawyer, not just any lawyer, a shark. A quiet, well-dressed, methodical man who told me, don't confront her until you're ready to end it. Let her believe everything's normal. So I did. I kept playing the part. We went on dinners, took selfies for her Instagram. She even kissed me in public like nothing was wrong. But inside, I was already gone. The marriage was over. The love had turned to ash. I was just collecting matches. The hardest part? Pretending around our families. My mother loved her, always talked about how lucky I was. I'd nod, smile, hold back bile. Her parents adored me, probably because I was stable and made their daughter look like a responsible adult. None of them knew that the woman who smiled beside me in family portraits was secretly humiliating me to strangers. And I had to keep it that way, for now. Then came the day I pulled the trigger. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney to file. Meanwhile, I planned a weekend trip and told her I'd be out of town. Instead, I stayed with a friend, close enough to home to monitor the situation. Sure enough, she brought someone over. I watched from my car as they laughed, drank, and eventually stumbled into our house together. The same house where I used to dream about growing old with her. I filmed it, date stamped, location verified. It was the final nail in a coffin she'd spent years building. And then, I vanished. I didn't leave a note, no warning, no confrontation, just silence. I had packed everything important weeks ago: birth certificates, financial documents, personal keepsakes. She didn't even notice that I'd slowly moved out of the home. That's how detached she was. I closed our shared bank account the morning after filing. redirecting my paycheck to a private account she didn't know existed. I cancelled every card with my name on it, left her with the credit she had secretly racked up, most of it from hotel stays and lavish nights out I never participated in. When I walked away, I didn't leave behind a goodbye. I left a mirror, one that showed her exactly what she had done. Her first message came 2 days later. "Where are you? Are you okay?" It was almost sweet. If I didn't know better, I'd have thought she cared. But it wasn't me she missed. It was the routine, the reliability, the man she could manipulate while keeping her secret life alive. I didn't respond. Then came the calls, one after another. Voicemails shifting from worried to angry to desperate. And I stayed silent through every one. By the end of the week, she was spiraling. Her friends, the same ones who laughed with her that night, didn't have answers. One of them called me, leaving a cryptic message. "You're scaring her. Just talk to her. Whatever this is, it's too far." I laughed out loud when I heard it. Too far? I had been lied to, mocked, and betrayed for years, and walking away was too far? Then came the text that almost made me reply. "Please, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. And maybe if I had been weaker, I'd have bitten, but I wasn't the same man anymore." That night behind the wall had changed something fundamental. I'd seen the ugliness for what it was, not just a moment of betrayal, but a culture of cruelty. She kept hidden behind fake smiles. The day of the divorce hearing, she finally realized I was serious. She showed up looking hollow, wearing makeup like armor. Her lawyer stood beside her, smug and unprepared. Mine? He came armed with documentation, surveillance, financial records, and a timeline that painted her betrayal in high definition. When the judge reviewed the evidence, he didn't even flinch. My lawyer didn't need theatrics. He had proof. Cold, calculated, undeniable. She tried to speak, claimed emotional distress, said I had abandoned the marriage. But the moment the judge played the audio recording of her drunken confession, her face collapsed. It was like watching a porcelain mask fall off. Her friend's laughter echoed in the courtroom. My lawyer paused the recording. The judge looked at her and said, "Is that your voice?" She couldn't deny it. Her silence was the closest thing to honesty I had ever seen from her. I was awarded everything I asked for. Full ownership of the house, sole control of our joint investments. The court saw through her. Her affair partners had no interest in defending her. They were never there for her. They were distractions. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I had felt in years. Not just legally free, but emotionally vindicated. The justice wasn't loud. It was precise. It was final. And she was the one who handed me the hammer. For weeks afterward, she tried reaching out. Apologies layered with desperation. She even showed up at my friend's place, crying on the porch, begging to talk. I still didn't say a word, because some wounds don't heal with apologies. They heal with distance. And I wasn't going to let her back in just because her fantasy life finally imploded. Then, one rainy night, she showed up at my new apartment, crying, drenched, mascara running down her face. She looked like someone who had finally seen herself for the first time. "Please," she said, "just let me explain." I opened the door, not to let her in, but to hand her a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter I'd written the night I heard her call me stupid. It was short, just one line. "You were right, I was too stupid, but now I'm smart enough to know I deserve better." I shut the door without another word. She didn't knock again, didn't shout, didn't plead. She just stood there in the rain, staring at the letter in her hands like it was the first honest thing anyone had handed her in years. I watched through the peephole as the sobs came, not performative, not manipulative, just raw and quiet. Maybe for the first time she finally felt the weight of what she had done. But that wasn't my burden anymore. I had carried her secrets for years, let them rot inside me like poison. That night, I let them go. The days that followed were silent again. No calls, no texts. She had finally understood that there was no doorway left open. I wasn't bitter, I wasn't raging, I had no interest in revenge. What I felt was cleaner than that. I felt clarity, a sharp line drawn between who I was before and who I had become since. I had evolved through the fire she set, and when she looked back, all she would see was smoke, rising behind a man who refused to burn with her. I started rebuilding my life, but this time with intention. I cut ties with people who enabled her. I deleted the shared memories, Not out of hatred, but out of necessity. My home became my own. No longer a place of betrayal, but a space I could finally exhale in. I picked up new hobbies, made new friends, and let the weight of her absence become something I didn't fear, but welcomed. Because emptiness isn't the same as loneliness. Sometimes it's the start of peace. Occasionally, I would hear from mutual acquaintances. They'd mention how she was not doing well, how she seemed lost, unstable, angry. One even told me she started going to therapy and mentioned my name in nearly every session. Part of me wondered if she was finally confronting her reflection, but I never let that curiosity become a door. Closure didn't mean conversation, it meant finality. And my life was finally mine again. I found myself smiling more, not the forced kind I used to wear around her. Smiles meant to keep the illusion alive, but real, spontaneous, crooked smiles that came from freedom. I learned how to cook meals I actually liked. I stopped sleeping on the edge of the bed. I read books without someone mocking my taste. I laughed out loud, not because I was trying to seem okay, but because I was okay. People ask me if I'll ever trust again, if I'll love again, and I don't have a dramatic answer, just this maybe. I'm not closed off, I'm just selective now. My standards aren't just about romance, they're about integrity. If someone can't laugh with me without laughing at me behind my back, they're not my person. I'm not afraid of love. I'm just unwilling to settle for performance, masquerading as partnership. Looking back, I don't regret the years I spent with her. I regret the years I spent silencing my own intuition, the nights I brushed off gut feelings, the times I made excuses for her absence, her coldness, her lies. But even those regrets are fading, because every scar taught me something. Every crack let the truth in, and the truth is, I didn't lose her, she lost me, and she's gonna have to live with that far longer than I ever lived with her betrayal. Now, when I walk through my home, it's quiet, but it's the good kind of quiet. Not the silence of secrets or suppression, but the calm that follows a storm that didn't break you. I've repainted the walls, replaced the furniture, even planted a few things outside. There's life here again, not hers, mine. And in that space, I've built something she never could: self-respect. If you're reading this, and you've been through something similar, I hope you know you're not weak for believing someone. You're not stupid for trusting, but you are strong for walking away. For staying silent long enough to prepare your escape. For refusing to be baited into drama. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is peace, and the greatest surprise you can give someone who broke you is not showing them your pain, but showing them your progress. She thought she shattered me, but all she really did was set me free.